Hey everyone, this is Metalhead Nation 1021. As you know, I'm a huge fan of progressive metal. My favorite band is Dream Theater, and big news in that community recently as three members of Dream Theater, past and present, as well as another prog virtuoso, is the best way to put it, Tony Levin, have come together after 22 years and are releasing a new studio album. Most of you probably know this, or you wouldn't have clicked on the video. Um, what you guys may not know are the finer details of this announcement, including the second disc track listing, or even the first disc track listing. And I also wanted to dive into the single that was released, which was The Passage of Time. And I think I'll start out by saying, amazing single, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be my album of the year. It's going to be a close race between this and the new Transatlantic, but I think this one is going to beat it out, and I think the 22-year wait was 100% worth it. Talking about The Passage of Time in particular, you immediately notice it's a lot, I wouldn't say a lot heavier, but it does have a noticeable amount of heavier elements to it than the original two LTE albums. I'm not sure how most people are going to take this. I'm pretty sure most people are fine with it or even enjoy it more. I personally think this is what the evolution of Liquid Tension Experiment, the project, would sound like between their last album in 98 and their, I'm sorry, no, it was not, I'm sorry, 99, and their most recent album coming out in a few months, which is LT3. I think it's a natural evolution. I think it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't sound like completely different musicians, but it does sound like a updated, more produced version of the band in a good way. And I think that this also doesn't lead as an example for what the rest of the album is going to be like, because descriptions on the Inside Out website like the processes of writing the tracks say that this one was the first one they wrote, and that some of the other tracks on the albums definitely delve into a lot more progressive territory, such as like jazz type progressions and the jam sessions, which I'll get to later. They also mentioned things about, I think specifically one that caught my eye was Keys to Imagination, I believe. Key to the Imagination, that's it. That one seemed to have a very interesting writing process. I'll be very excited to hear that. That's the epic of the disc one of the album, or of the studio written material, I should say, which I'll get to later. As a short little synopsis on the track, The Passage of Time, first single, first new piece of music that wasn't like a jam session from the LTE2 things, which would be Liquid Trio Experiment, which came out in 07 or 08, I believe. This is the first new piece of music, first newly recorded piece of music as well, in 22 years. And it starts off it starts off with a very, very interesting riff, a very complex riff. It almost, and I'll bring this back later, it almost sounds as if it's almost a progression of Dream Theater, or where they were going on the last two albums that they did with Portnoy. And I'll go back to that later, because I felt like what I've noticed people talking about, there's an interesting sort of connection, or a theoretical connection, that some people are theorizing may or may not be the case. So yeah, it has amazing riffs. It's a little more basic than a lot of the other tracks are. It's even described as such on the Inside Out website under their descriptions. Another interesting thing about it is that the keyboard is a little bit absent for the first few seconds, but it comes in. It's very reminiscent of a lot of the intro songs on the Acid Rain and Paradigm Shift in particular. It's very reminiscent of those, where you get the riff and the drums coming in right away, and then the keyboard, it adds a layer to it, like 10, 20, 30 seconds in. I think it works really well. And I should mention this is not the intro track of the album, but I think it's probably the best track they could have picked for a single in terms of length, placement, and overall sound. I will say that I was most impressed, and I'll get back to this later as well, I was most impressed by the keyboard playing on this track, and specifically the solo, which I'll get to. The track, I can't remember exactly where within, but it starts to have like almost a symphonic element. At first, it introduces like synth, background synth in a way that almost sounds like something Rush would have done in the '80s, but like fast and metal. It's something that I don't feel like Dream Theater's really done that much, and or Liquid Tension experiment at least with the same tonality that this uses, and it was really interesting, and I really did enjoy that. And there's also some orchestral pads used on the synth as well, if I'm not mistaken, later in the song, which sound beautiful. Again, I think the technology really benefits the project because they couldn't do a lot of this stuff 21 years ago when they recorded their last album. And I think that the fact that technology is sort of caught up to the musicians in a way is a good thing and very beneficial to their songwriting process and their jamming process, which I cannot wait to hear. There's some guitar solos throughout, some awesome Petrucci arpeggios, and the first, I think it's 4 or 5 minutes, they're really good, but they don't hold a candle to the Jordan Rudess synth solo, which I know it's new, and I'm looking through it through like rose-tinted glasses, but it may be the best Jordan Rudess solo I've ever heard in the context of the song, as well as in the playing itself, and the technicality, as well as the feel. This is almost comparable to a guitar solo in the phrasing that Rudess uses. I mean, he uses the modulators on the side to bend and shift like you would on a guitar, like bending the string. And I have to say that I think this is the best he's ever done it. He moves up and down the keyboard through the entire thing. It's actually quite long, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. It ends perfect. It's the perfect amount of time. That's all I can say. It is the perfect amount of time. It is the perfect keyboard solo. And if his playing on the rest of the album is anything like that, this is going to be the best piece of Rudess work on anything, probably, that I've ever heard. I am absolutely astounded by that solo, and also his rhythmic / background playing through the rest of the song. The drums are amazing as well, and I want to say that the Petrucci solo album, I love the guitar on it, but the drums were a little lackluster. I think that's mostly due to the fact that Petrucci was the one who wrote the drum parts and not Portnoy. However, on here, it's a totally different story. It sounds like something that Sons of Apollo would do, or even Transatlantic in their heavier moments. All the complexity is back, and it's just exciting to hear. To try to finish off this portion of the video about the Passage of Time single in particular, I noticed people in the comment section talking about how there are a few sections within the song that seem to be callbacks to Portnoy-era Dream Theater songs, and specifically songs from the last 2 albums he featured on before he departed the band. And that was In the Presence of Enemies Part 1, and I believe it was Shattered Fortress, which I guess could technically also be a tie-in to the previous 12-step Suite songs, but I'm going to go with the interpretation people are making in the comments. There is a guitar line that sounds reminiscent of the, I can't remember the specific section, but it sounds very reminiscent of the melodic solo in Part 1 that occurs before like the chorus riff, I guess you could say. And both of these, by the way, I didn't notice until they were pointed out to me, but now are just so evident that I can't unhear them. Um, the second one is a Rudis piano passage. I think it's 2 or 3 minutes in. That sounds eerily similar to the now da, na, 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 na. That passage from Shattered Fortress, and also I think it's from This Dying Soul. It's been carried throughout the 12-step suite. It's also prevalent there, and that one is a lot more noticeable. And once you hear that, you're not going to be able to unhear it at all. And I think it's awesome. I don't know if it was purposeful or not, but they do seem like little callbacks to that era. And though I love Mangini and Dream Theater, and if they keep him forever, or if they decide that they want to bring Portnoy back, I'm completely fine either way. It's really cool to see these kind of little tie-ins, even if they were accidental. Maybe it just shows the chemistry between the members. So anyways, to close it out, amazing track. I have to say that, again, this is, I think on disc 1, this is the 4th longest, and so it sits sort of right in the middle between the shorter tracks and the longer tracks. So I'd say it's very average in terms of structure, exploration. It doesn't seem to be going too far out, which is what a single is supposed to do, is represent like a basis for the band that they will build off of later with what else comes through the album. But I found it very, very interesting, and I think it's an amazing track, and it's probably my favorite track to come out this year. I'd say that's along with some of the Transatlantic work, like some of their singles, probably all 3 of them, to be honest. They've all been wonderful. Moving on to the album itself and what we know about it. So, pre-orders went up and track lengths are out. The track lengths for disc 1, which is the main album, I guess, 8 tracks, if I'm not, 8 tracks, about 1 hour and 2 minutes, I think, worth of music. A little shorter than previous LTE albums, but they make up for that with a bonus disc of an hour of improvised studio jams. Think along the lines of 3 Minute Warning off of LTE 1. I think that's the best example. It might be a little bit different, but that's the vibe I'm getting off of these, I suppose. It's also about an hour long, so it makes the album a little under 2 hours. But this one is, the songs are much longer on average. Out of the 5 songs that are on this one, 4 of them are over 10 minutes, and it actually holds the album's 2 longest songs at 14:30 and 15:23, which beat out Rhapsody in Blue and Key to the Imagination, which are the 2 longest on disc 1. Now, I find this really exciting because I'm a sucker for longer songs, and 3 Minute Warning is my favorite Liquid Tension Experiment song. I think it's just the perfect jam that I think it seems like something they do live, like as an improvised jam, and it's atmospheric because of that. It's not as meticulously crafted, therefore it's more visceral and explorative, and I really like that. But anyways, to go back into more detail on the album, I believe what we do know is that it's almost positive that the teaser that was released, I believe it was either early this month or late last December, was the intro to the album, which is Hypersonic. That's most people's theory. It makes sense. It's just beyond fast. I actually thought that was going to be the single, as with Transatlantic, they released Overture and Reaching for the Sky as the singles, or the first single. And so I was, and also since they teased it in the trailer, I also thought that was going to be the first one. But it wasn't, and I'm actually kind of happy about that because, again, I feel it's more of a specialized track, where this one is meant to represent more of the bass theme of the album. We don't know much about the other tracks. One thing that we do... One thing that we do know is that they have released descriptions for several of the songs, if I can find that, I'd like to touch upon that a little bit, not overdo it, but I found a lot of them quite interesting. Is that it? There we go. So, 8 songs on the LTE3, which are disc 1, which is these, again, what more people are going to be listening to other than the improvised stuff. It is 4 fully composed tracks, 2 duets, and 1 on-the-fly jam. That's a very similar structure to their first 2 albums, by the way. Yeah, they also talked about how, again, it's very spontaneous in the studio. I mean, they don't have a lot of time generally during these sessions, and I think that works very well. It's not overdone, I guess, and it's not, they don't worry about it too much, which I think sometimes can lead to some of the best music they release. Like I was saying, they talk about some of the track styles. Like there's a Liquid Evolution is like jazz infused, and Chris and Kevin's Amazing Odyssey, or another track on the album, is avant-garde in a way, which is a sequel to a song off of the first album, basic or conceptually in a way. They talk about the passage of time, again, the first track that they wrote in 22 years. They don't put a lot of description into that one, which makes sense because it's not a very eclectic or outside of the box track. They do go into Key to the Imagination, the 13-minute epic, the second longest on disc 1, only beaten out by the Gershwin cover, Rhapsody in Blue. The description for this one is it showcases all the elements the band has been known for, starting off calmly, building with dozens of time and chord changes, and culminating in such breathtaking manner that it sends chills down your spine. That's just an awesome description, and it also compares it to things like 6 Degrees or Octavarium, which, if it really does live up to those expectations, this could be the best song of the decade for me. They talk about Hypersonic as well, which is just insanely fast. I'm very excited for that one as well. I'm still not sure exactly what track I'm like looking forward to the most. I'm seeing it more as an album, and I think that's the way to look at it. And you can choose your poison between the jams or disc 1's more meticulously crafted material. Again, Rhapsody in Blue is finally getting its justice and having a studio release after it was covered in, again, 2008, I believe. Amazing song, and I wonder if the arrangement on the album is going to differ any from the one they did in 2008, because they were limited to a live setting. They couldn't expand much on the stylization, so it'll be very interesting to see if they decide to maybe layer it a bit more, since they're not confined. And to be honest, no matter what they do with it, if it at least lives up to the performance they gave in 2008, then I'm 100% fine, and I'm more than happy. They talk about the high expectations, but I don't think they're gonna have to worry about that, because track 1 just already blows me away. I don't think it's gonna be a problem. The album cover, I love it. I already pre-ordered the box set with the vinyl and the Blu-ray and the CDs and the art book and everything. And I own the first 2 LTE albums on CD. I needed this one on physical. It's probably the album I'm looking forward to most this year. It's just so exciting. Another exciting thing, again, the album is about an hour. It's an hour 57 specifically, and I mean, as somebody who loves longer songs, you get an 8-minute song, 7-minute song, 13, 13, 10, 10, 14, 15. That's, I believe, 6 songs that clock in at over 10 minutes. It's a double album. And if you listen to any of their jams, like 3 Minute Warning or the live jams they did during the 2008 tour, you know how uh, you don't be afraid of going into these, because they basically jam and improvise as well as they write, which is insane. I was a little surprised that they didn't advertise the jam side track listing when they were like when they introduced the disc one track listing. Um, because looking at these, it doesn't look like little snippets. Obviously, it feels like full on improvised songs. And the way they were describing it as an hour of improvised jams almost made it seem like it was just like little snippets here and there, and that it wasn't one like cohesive piece that they sat down and made, again in the stylization of 3 Minute Warning. But it left me more than excited, realizing that it was tracks instead of like just pieces. So now I understand why they're selling basically every single edition of this album as a 2 CD, because this is just as necessary as the first disc. Beyond excited, beyond excited. So to close out the video, I implore all of you who haven't to go and listen to the new single. If you like it, I implore you to pre-order the album either physically or digitally. It's running low physically. Believe me, that was a little bit of a scare. I think some of the vinyls even sold out within the first 4 hours of the pre-order. People are hyped, and I believe this album's going to live up to the hype. It's going to be the perfect evolution from the first 2 albums, just written 20 years later. The chemistry's still there, the chops are still there, and the guys are older now, but they can still play as well as they did in their 30s and 20s. It's insane. This is going to be album of the year, or it's going to be right up there. And there's no doubt in my mind that this is going to live up to the hype of the first 2. It's going to live up to expectations and exceed them. They know what they're doing, and I mean, it's Portnoy, Petrucci, and Rudess back together. 3 of the best musicians in the world, especially probably the 3 best musicians in the genre of progressive rock or progressive metal right now, as well as Levin, who I'd also throw in there, to be honest. Just an amazing bass player. So excited. I don't usually make videos like this. I think that shows you how excited I am about this release. So check it out if you haven't. Pre-order it if you haven't. And keep posted on it. Just keep updated, and I'll definitely be diving more into this when it comes out. And when we get a second single, which I imagine will happen since it's a 2-month away release. But yeah, just absolutely psyched out. It's going to be amazing. So thank you guys so much for watching. The video is long, but I'm just very passionate about this. So if you want to subscribe and like, if you don't, that's okay. Leave a comment any criticisms maybe. I'd love to hear them, because I'm trying to make my content a little bit better, trying to become more articulate with my wording, and trying to stutter less and take less pauses, and saying things like and less. So it helps a lot. So anyways, thank you so much for watching the video. And just thank you for still being here for this genre to keep it alive. Anyways, this has been Metalhead Nation 1021, and thank you for watching the video.